Welcome back, guys. It's been a little while, a couple months. Sorry about that, but life happens. Life goes on, and so I couldn't really spend a whole lot of time doing videos. Plus, I wanted to get a little further ahead before making this video. So I've been trying to play here and there, trying to get to where I wanted to be before recording the next one here. So sorry about the time delay, but I don't want to. I want to keep this going, especially X4 is going to be coming out here in a couple weeks. So I don't even know if anybody's going to care about this one after that one, but because it looks like X4 is going to actually be the real sequel we've been waiting for since this game. Waiting forever. But anyways, I wanted this video. I wanted to show building a complex because as you're growing, you definitely will need to build complexes if you really want to, be huge. Complexes, basically all it does is, instead of having multiple factories all separate and you're using transports to transport goods between them two, you just have them all connected. And so you don't need to transport goods using ships to transport goods, because it's all one. It's seen as one unit, and it even has one docking location. No matter if you have 2 factories linked or if you have 200 factories linked, there's one docking hub, which makes things a lot nicer. But there's some tricks to it to make placing them easier, or because you can place it pretty much any way you want to. The tools aren't the best as far as making it easy to place it where you want to, but I'm going to show you, how to do that and how I do it, at least anyway. That I found that works the best. So anyways, the complex I want to build. Well, first of all, before that, let me just kind of do a review. I know it's been a long time for me. Maybe you just ended watching the last video, but all right. So recap: every sector besides like Xenon sectors and Imperial sectors have been found, fully explored with a scout, all asteroids scanned, and satellites in them. And right now I've got my sector is here, this unknown sector. It's got the HQ, which is like a shipyard. It's got the fleet dock where I put my ships. I keep my it's basically to load up ships. Now you can't do software. Software you can only buy from NPC equipment docks and stuff. But so besides software, but I keep all my missiles, guns, all that stuff, energy cells in this one dock, because this dock, I've explained before, but any M6s, TSs, or fighters, M3, 4, and 5s, they can dock in this particular dock, and there's no limit to the amount of them. All the other races types of this building, I think it's an equipment dock. I can't remember what race though. I have to look it up. I had it in a previous video. Anyways, this races can have an unlimited number of TSs and M6s docked. All the other ones, there's a limit because they dock on the outside. Like this has an internal dock where the ships kind of just fly in. There's not an external dock. So when there's an internal dock, if that's where the ship will dock, there's no limit to them. But there's on the externals, there's only so many docking clamps, so there is a limit to them. All right, guys, sorry about that. The recording just stopped. Anyways, let's see, where was I? I was was recapping what I've got. All right. So, anyways, yeah, I've got tons of mines, like 40 to 50 mines. My HQ builds up ships. It's like my shipyard. Fleet dock. I was talking about my fleet dock. I've got my solar power plant, which I'm going to use this. I'm going to build off of this. I'm going to for my complex. I'm going to use this for my complex. I'm going to start with that and build off that. I've got my storage units storing extra stuff that weapons and missiles and stuff for my HQ to build ships. Yeah, so I try not to run out of that. Have plenty of stockpile on that. So there's my stations, my ships. I got the Venator fully loaded, fully done. It's got 50 ships, or space for 50 ships. I've got 12 A wings, 12 B wings, 12 X wings, 12 Y wings on this. Plus, I use the transport ship, this CHF-1, because it's an M3 class. It can dock on any ship. It's not a TS or a transport ship, but it has 4,000 units of cargo space. So I always use this as my supply ship, transport ship between my capital ships and stations. So I always use that. So that's 49, and then I got one space so that I can land on there if I want to land on there. Nebula class Star Destroyer, I am reverse engineering. I've got 4 different M7 ships. I got the Assault Frig MK1. I got the Nebula B Medical Frigate. I've got the Quasar, and I've got the DP-37B Heavy Gunship. And the Assault Frig can have 25 ships, so I got those evenly split between all 4 fighter types. This one can only hold 4, so it's just got 1 of each type. Quasar can hold 30, so I got 7 of each type, plus the supply ship. And then 1 spot that I can land on it if I want to. And this one only has 5, so yeah, I've got the supply ship. I've got 2 B-wings and 2 X-wings, though. Wonder why I did that. Oh well, it's fine. It's fully loaded. So I got 4 M7s. Those are frigates. I got 4 M6s. Now these are DP-20s, gunships, M6s, and I want to have one of these at each one of my mines. So it's between 45 and 50 somewhere. Right now I've only got 4, so I got a ways to go. But I want to have at least one of these at each mine, and then I may add some fighters to those patrol fleets. But I want to have those there because it's inevitable that some enemy, Xenon, Pirates, whatever, is going to start attacking your stations, and they can't defend themselves. So if you have no ships there, it doesn't matter if they're fighters; they'll just chew away at your station and blow it up. So. And the thing about stations, once they're blown up, they're blown up. That goes for NPC stations. That goes for your mines. So if I built a silicon mine on a high yield asteroid and that mine gets blown up, the asteroid's gone. You can't rebuild those mines on the same yield asteroids. So once you build on a high yield asteroid, you really don't want it to die because you'll never get it again if it blows up. So I want to get those patrols going. That's a big deal. However, to get those patrols going, I need to have my production complexes going here. Because, well, here, I might as well, yeah, because right now I've got ships going out and buying. Let's see. These here, these are all going out and buying everything I need from NPC stations, so spending that money. If I get a self-sustaining complex going where I'm not buying anything from NPCs, that's all basically almost profit. I mean, you got to pay the CAG pilots a salary for transporting, but once I've got it all building at one complex instead of going to multiple NPCs for each item, um, there's just going to be one complex building it all for the HQ and the fleet dock, and so I don't have to use all these ships, and I don't have to be spending that money on their salaries too. So I can run it a lot more efficiently. Plus, I don't have these ships at risk jumping all over the universe. They're basically just be transporting right in the same sector, in my home sector. So that's a huge benefit when you can get complex going to supply yourself and be more self-sustaining, self-sufficient. So that's the reason for this complex. I've got 4 acclimators. 2 of them are for the mobile mining fleets, the Y8s, and each one can hold 5 of those miners. So they serve as a central point to store and transport wares and the ships. I got 2 acclimators I use as TLs. One of them is kind of a storage shed, though. It was an overload kind of shed for a while, so it's got a lot of stuff on it. The other one, though, is ready to go just for station transports. It's fully loaded, but it only has in its cargo hold what it needs to run that ship. So like energy cells and stuff. So that one's got like 55,000 units of open cargo space out of 60. So I'm going to use this as my station transport to transport my stations. Building this complex. I've got 3 of the TM Gazantes. There's the TS Gazantes I use as transport ships. They can't have any fighters. These are the TM Gazantes, which can have 4 fighters. So I use these really. They're not as an assault ship, like with ready to go fighters, but I use these more of to pick up either abandoned fighters I just captured, or A-wings, because I can't really use jump drives with those because it can't hold that many energy cells. So I use these for that type of thing, where fighters need help in some sort. And of course, I've also got my CAGs that are supplying like my mines and selling ore and silicon, extra ore and silicon, and extra energy cells. And then I got my ships that are just doing taking energy cells and supplying them to the mines. Then I got my universal traders. Got 31 universal traders. Got the Ghost, the Slave, the Falcon, and both of the Jedi ships from the Clone War movies. And I got 19 Naboo fighter ships that are only used to train CAG pilots. They do that circle. Yeah, so that's kind of where we're at here. These ships that you see with the blackish gray wing color, that color right there, that are all fully loaded, those are part of my satellite early detection network wing. So I can just quickly send all those ships to jump to a certain place. I want to build that up too. I mean, it does have M1 and 4 M7s in it right now, and each one of those have got, that's 50 fighters, that's 25, that's 4, that's 30, that's 5. So that's with those fighters that are on board those ships, plus those being capital ships, it's a good fleet to start with, but it doesn't have any support ships really as far as M6s. I want to have M6s in there definitely. But anyways, I'm trying to get those to do my the SD stands for station defense, my defense fleets, my defense patrols for all my stations. Because it gets annoying when 2 pirate fighters are just chewing away at a station, and you have to physically, you have to jump there and then destroy them because there's no defense patrol there. So yeah, So that's where we're at. Um, so but the main point today is to get that complex going, um, and um, starting with complexes, you're going to have to use a complex calculator. So if you just Google X3 complex calculator, use the Terran conflict one. The Albion Prelude one, I believe, doesn't work. But use the Terran conflict one. Actually, I'll probably make another video and just kind of insert it, like how to use the calculator right here. Okay, so the complex calculator, if you just search X3 complex calculator. Uh, the Albion Prelude doesn't work. Just use Terran Conflict. It's fine. It works. Um, and then, so what you want to do is you want to first start off, I would, if you haven't built a complex before, I would just start with a small one, like producing one item. Um, like you can do, what I'm going to eventually do too is all the 5 solar power plants I got around, I'm going to, or the other solar power plants I've got around, I'm going to build those into complexes that are self-sustaining, because right now I'm buying crystals to supply those. Um, but I'm going to add crystal fabs and then Kahuna bakeries for the food that's to supply the crystal fabs, and the cattle ranches to supply the Kahuna bakeries. So it's all self-sustaining. So I don't have to use a ship to um, go and buy crystals from NPCs and to supply those. So you may want to start with something like that, where you're just dealing with 4 different types of stations, until you get your building down and the way you like to set them up and lay them out and all that stuff. But anyways, that's suggesting start small, because once you understand the fundamentals, it's doesn't matter if you do a 200 one. Once you understand it, it's all the same. It's just, depending on how many buildings you want. But once you have your routine and stuff down. So anyways, you always want to start off with what you want to make first. So for my headquarters, I'm going to need energy cells. So I no, 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 no. Solar power plant. Um, Now I've already got an Argon XL, and it's 150 is the yield. So with solar power plants, when you go to the galaxy map and whatever sector you're highlighted, it will say in the top right, like it says suns, and so we'll say 100% or 150% or 200%. 150%, what that does is that's like kind of like with your asteroids, the yield amount of an asteroid. Well, that's the yield amount for your energy cells, solar power plants, in that sector from the solar rays. 150 is average. I would never do anything lower than 150. And then there's some sectors that may have like 200 or 250 or something like that. But those are rare. Those are rarer. Um, but anyway, so that's a solar power plant. You want to select what type of race. Some things are, race specific. Now, keep in mind though, ideally you want to try to keep everything one race if you can. You're not going to be able to do that when you get more complex stuff like what I'm about to build here, but um, because you'll need food for each race type. So if you have all 4 races, you're going to have just you're going to have each food type and the supplier of that food type, because each race's food type kind of has a subtype too, subcomponent. So you'll need 2 different types for each race, and that's in. So, anyways, it's simpler and cheaper if you can try to keep it the same race. But again, I'm not going to be able to with what I'm trying to do here. Um, So, anyways, that's going to build energy cells. Once I have these all filled out and the quantity of those, the number of stations and all that, it tells me down here what this complex is producing and then what it is actually using to produce that stuff. So, because I put that solar power plant, it's going to produce this many energy cells, but it's going to need this many crystals. And right now, I'm not producing that many crystals. So, anyways, um, don't worry about trying to equal these out right now. Get all the things down first. As far you want to work backwards. So you want to start with your final products that you want to actually use or sell or produce, the end products first, and then work backwards using these numbers, and I'll show you that. But so I'm going to need energy cells. I'm going to need teladiodium. Teladiodium, teladi. There's only a teladi, so I have to have a teladi. Like with the solar power plant, each race has got their own version of the XL size. Some races may have the power plant, but not in all available sizes. So just kind of have. That's why you have to really think and plan this out first. But this calculator makes it a lot easier. So I'm going to need rhymes, cloth rhymes, rhymes factory. And I'm going to want it to be argon, and I'm going to want it to be medium and have one. The teladiodium, just a medium and one. Again, I'm going for producing everything I need. Um, they may not be at the best rates of each item, but at least I'm producing each item myself. That's what I want to get started here, because I can always add on to it, like more teladiodium foundries if they're not pretty. If I'm always waiting on that or something, but right now I just want to get one of each, the smallest. Um, so rhymes fact, Rastar. I need Rastar oil. Yeah, Rastar oil. Rastar refinery. It's only split because that's their food. I'm going to need mediums. I'm going to need 3 of those. Um, Crystal Fab next. Crystal Fab, and I'm going to stick with argon. I always try to stick with argon if I can. I don't know. It's just maybe my history that I've always started X3 games usually in argon space, but I think it's not a lot of them, but I think there's a couple or something like that. Factory types, like say this may not be it, but for example, Crystal Fab, an argon Crystal Fab medium may produce more each cycle than like a boron Crystal Fab medium, if that makes sense. It's most of the time they're equal in the races, but I think there's a few where argon has a better rate of production for some reason. So, anyways, I always try to do argon if I can. Try to stick with them. Um, so crystals, producing crystals, I need to produce quantum tubes, quantum tube fab, one small argon small one. I need to produce chips, so I need a chip plant. That one's going to be one small argon. Computer plant next, computer plant. That's going to be one small argon. And phased repeater gun, phased repeater gun, um, phased repeater gun. That's actually in the Star Wars mod. That's the KX9s. That's a KX9 forge. Um, one small argon. All right. 5 megajoule shields. So shield 5 megajoule. I want that to be one small telati. One small telati. Mosquito missiles. Mosquito missiles. Want that to be one small argon. 25 megajoule shields. Shields 25. One split. One small split. Silkworm missile. Silkworm missiles are the torpedoes in the Star Wars mod. Silkworm. No, split. I want this one to be one small split. I already figured this out so that you didn't have to watch me figure it out, but I'm going to explain the reasons why I got some different races. When there's a choice between some races, I have certain races. It's to even out the food production, basically. So I'm not making extra food of a race's food. Extra of the race's food. Anyways, iron, that's only boron, one small boron. Pulse beam emitter. The pulse beam emitter, those are the AG2Gs. Pulse beam emitter, and I want that to be one small split. Cluster flak array, I need a cluster flak array. One small argon. Thunderbolt missile. One small split. 20 megajoule shields. No, 200 megajoule shields. Can't read my own handwriting. One small argon. Now up here you can add rows. Keep on adding rows. More probably. Get 1 gigajoule shields. So shield 1 gigajoule, and that's going to be one small boron. 2 gigajoule shields. That's one small argon. Hammerhead torpedo. Hammerhead torpedoes, one small Talati. Proton pulse cannon. That one is that's for the capital ships. That's the real powerful gun. One small argon. Bofu chemical plant. All right, so okay, so let me actually pause right here. So this is all the stuff that I want to produce their products as final products. Okay, I've got the guns, missiles, shields I need for my ships that I am trying to produce right now, and the products needed for the headquarters to produce the ships, to supply all that stuff. So now when I go down here, it tells me this is my rate of 1 gigajoule shield production, of 2 gigajoule shield production, all that stuff. So this is how much I'm producing. If it's green, that means I'm producing more than using. If it's red, I'm using more than I'm producing. Okay. Now, these are all final product stuff that I want. So I want to produce more than what I'm using. Okay, of anything final. Like Bofu, that's a food. Chelt's meat, that's a food. That's only used within the complex to supply the food to the factories that are producing these final items. So because I don't want to produce extra Bofu to sell, or to transport or use somewhere else or whatever. I want this to be even as possible from what I'm producing to what I'm using. So like with Bofu, I'm going to go up here and I'll do a Bofu chemical plant. Okay. And that's boron's food, so there's only boron. I'm going to do, there's medium and large of the food complexes, and they have a different amount produced each cycle, but it's kind of like a different ratio. So usually to equal those numbers out, you have to get the right size and then just the right amount of that size. Okay. Like, don't think of medium as equal as or as the same ratio. Like, if it's not like if you double a medium, that's a large. Okay. You'll never be able to get these. Well, they're at amounts where they'll never equal out. Like, 2 of these won't equal a large. 4 of these won't equal 2 larges. 5 of these won't equal 2 larges. They won't ever really equal out. So they're more of a different. Think of them as different ratios when you're trying to equal out the production amounts. Okay, so if you're trying to medium and you do 5 and it's not enough, and you do 6 but it's not equal, it's producing more, then try the large sizes and the numbers to try to see if it's that ratio that will get it equal. If not, then that's when you have to try to equal out the races. So like some of these that I didn't choose argon, but I choose a different race so that I would have the amount of food needed at a number that I can equal it out on the factories producing it. Okay. So sometimes you may have to mess around with that. But like with Bofu, right now I'm going to do medium. I'm going to try medium. So right now, one medium Bofu plant produces 300 Bofu, which that's exactly what I need. Okay. If I did large, I would be producing 750, not 300. So if you see, if I double the large, it's going to be 1500. Then it's going to be 2250. Then it's going to be 3000. So these will never, the large will never equal the medium ratios until I got to 3000. See what I mean? So that's why don't think of them as necessarily different sizes, as more of different ratios, different to try to equal these out. Anyways, so one medium will equal that out. Okay, but because I got Bofu, it needs Bogas, okay, to produce the Bofu. So I don't want to produce though more Bogas than what's needed. So I'm trying to look for 100. So if I go with a biogas factory medium, if you see here it's producing 100, that's exactly what I need. When it comes to the race's food stuff, the sub product needed to produce the final food product, it's the ratio and the size of these is going to be the same for each race's food type. They'll always be the same. So if you've got one or if you got 5 mediums of the final food type, you're going to need 5 mediums of that sub food type too for that food. Okay, just a rule of thumb. So I got those equaled out. Nice. So what else? Well, I'm going to need Chelts meats. I need to produce some Chelts meats. Okay. So let's go ahead with a Chelt Space Aquarium. That's a split food. And I'm going to go with medium. So now with this one, it's producing 360, but I need 1080. Well, let's see what 2 medium get me. I mean, you can see where this is probably going. And by the way, if this cursor's in there and you change it, it's not going to adjust these numbers until you click out of it, okay, for some reason. But with 2 mediums, I'm producing 720, but I still need 1080. So what's 3 going to get me? Well, 3, oh, there we go, 1080. So we're good, okay? Now, I also, okay, so I'm needing crystals. Okay, I'm only producing 120, but I need this many crystals to supply the solar power plant. So let's go up here to my crystal fab. Let's do 2 mediums and 240. Okay, well that's not going to be it. Well, let's go with 4. Excuse me. Sorry. Okay. Well, that's only 480. So let's go with 6. And if we look at the crystals, 720, and I need 680. Well, let me. What happens if I go with 5? Well, it's only producing 600, and I need 680. So I need. So, um, this is where you kind of just try to get it as even as possible. Okay, but you need to be at least producing enough that as much as you need. So I'm going to have to go with 6, and I'll just end up having like in the long run, I'll end up stockpiling some crystals because it's not that big of a difference. But so that's good. Wheat. So I need some wheat. So let's go with a wheat farm. And that one's going to be argon. Let's go with a medium. With 1 medium, how much does that produce? So that produces 1200. So that's good. Equals out. Good, good, good. Energy cells, we're doing good with that. We're doing good with the energy cells. Of course, the torpedoes, all that. Okay, so we need some meat steak kahunas. So I'm going to need a kahuna factory. That's only argons. Argon's food stuff. Let's go with medium, and that one is going to only produce 1200. Well, I need more than that. Um, so even if I went with 10 medium, it's not going to be enough. It's 12,000. I need 12,600. So you know what? Let's go with 11. And now I'm producing 13,200. Okay, so can I go with a large? What's 4 larges? 4 larges is 1,200. What if I go with 5 larges? That's 15, so it's way too much. So let's go back with the mediums. And 11 was 13.2. You know what? I'm going to have to go with 13.2. So let's go with 11 because I'm going to need at least produce enough. So I'm going to end up stockpiling piling a little bit of those. Microchips good. Mosquito missiles. No, nostrop oil. So I'm going to need some. Well, wait. Before that, I need the beef. I need the beef for the kahunas. So I might as well go ahead with cattle ranch, argon, medium. It's going to be the same amount, so I'll do 11, and that should, yes, the beef equals out because that's these are always going to be the same, the amounts, the food type things. Okay, so now I need nostrop oil. So I need a sun oil. Sun oil refinery. That's a Talati food product. Let's go with medium. One medium. Let's see, nostrop oil, 1,200. That's good. Good, good, good. I need ore. Now I'm mining ore, and you can take silicon and ore mines like the asteroids. You can use a tractor beam on the dock of the mine, the station part of the mine, and you can drag it very, very slowly. So you can move asteroids if you want. It takes way too long, um, in my opinion. Even moving at one sector because you have to go really, really slow because they're obviously big ass. I'm sorry, they're huge, huge asteroids. Um, so they go. It's real. It just take. You have to move so slow, or the tractor beam will break if you go too fast. So I don't move those. I'm just going to use those mines that I've got, or those mobile miners, to transport and supply the ore to this. Okay, because I'm producing those for free anyway. Um, got this stuff. This stuff I need to produce as final products. Rastar oil. So Rastar oil. Yeah, Rastar oil. I need some for the complex, but I also need some for the headquarters. So I want to produce more than what I'm using. So that's good. Silicon wafers, I'm going to also, like I said, with the same thing with the ore, I'm just going to ship that in myself. Sunrise flowers. So, oh, okay. That's right. I didn't get that done. Okay, so, okay, yeah, Rasa oil. But now I need a flower farm. Okay, so flower farm. Talati, medium, that should be about the same. So let's go down here with my flowers. 8, it equals out. So that's good. And I need Talatiodium, and I need that. So now, when I go up here, there's no red here except for the silicon and ore, which I'm going to ship in from my mines. The intermediate products, the products that I don't want to have extra of, I've got as even as far as producing what I'm using. I got those as even as possible where I could. Um, I am making some extra crystals, which isn't a bad thing because I can use those to supply other solar power plants. That's not a bad thing. The meat steak kahunas, that kind of sucks. I mean, I could try to sell those once they start really stockpiling, but it's not a big difference. So it's going to be a long time before my stockpile kind of really gets overflowed. And once it does for the kahunas, um, it's just going to not produce anymore. So it's not that big of a deal. I'm not losing much efficiency, but ideally, again, you want to have them equal. So I'm producing what I need to produce, everything for my HQ and for my supply my ships, or um, loaded up new bought ships. So that's everything equals as far as intermediate products. So I'm done. This is and really you can go as big as you want. You can just keep on going. Um, this is for I've had a complex like this has got 59 stations. I've had a complex, I think it was like 120 stations, and that one I actually did tractor beam in asteroids. I think I had a dozen different asteroids connected to this thing, and it was huge. It was huge. Um, I because that was the first big one that I really did. I said, you know what? Because I started small, like maybe anywhere from 5 stations to maybe a dozen at the most stations, um, until I got comfortable with it. And I was like, you know what? Now I got this down. I'm going to build a big one, and it was like I said, it was like 120 stations. But anyways, this one is a nice size still. It's 59 stations. It's not small, um, but it's at least one of the smallest factory type of each of the final products I need. That's what I want to get started with. Now, this will tell you too, if you were trying to do this for profit, you could you could look at this. I think buy, sell. Yeah, if you wanted to select how much you're going to sell and all that stuff, it will kind of try to figure up your profits or your losses per hour and how much time until the cost of the complex and the money you'll make, how much time it'll take to back even again from the initial cost. And I'll tell you the initial station cost. So this one here, you look at it's 161,227,248. Now the thing is though, this is not including um, the construction kits. I'm not even sure if I can put that in. Yeah, complex construction kit. I can't. Argon, of course, they're small, but I'm going to need you need one less than the amount of stations you have, so I'm going to need 58 of them. And now you'll see the cost went to 176 million and so on. Um, so this is going to cost about 100. I just figure 180 million. I mean, it's going to be a little bit less, but it's 180 million for 59 stations I'm going to be placing. But this is how you use the complex calculator, and you can mess around with stuff because everything makes things at different ratios, different amounts per cycle, and all that stuff. But there is a consistency with some of these things, like I said, with the food and all that stuff. And once you mess around with this, you'll get comfortable with how you kind of get like a routine of, how many, if you're doing an all argon complex, how many kahuna and cattle ranches you're going to end up needing. The same amount of stuff that you need for those intermediate products. But anyways, that's how you use the complex calculator. But once you have this, then you know exactly, okay, I need one XL argon solar power plant. I need one medium to Lottie Audium foundry. I would need one medium argon rhymes factory. So you already have all your list, and you know exactly what you need. One thing I try to do too is if I look at the station count, I try to make my complexes like grids, like rows and columns, and so I kind of try to keep the amounts in each row the same, so it's kind of just like a rectangle or something. It's more uniform, and so I kind of look at, okay, well, I figure 60 stations. Um, the way I'm going to set it up, though, it's going to be like the solar power plant's going to be one thing, and then I'm going to have like 3 stations and a singles like alone in a row. So if I subtract 4 from that, that's 55. So like I can think, I can have 11 rows of 5 in each row, or 11 columns of 5 in each row, or I can have 5 columns of 11 in each row to try to keep those equal. You just kind of get an idea ahead of time when I'm placing the stations. But anyways, that's how you use the complex calculator. And now we're going to take this list and make it. So anyways, once you're done with the complex calculator, you can figure out exactly how much of each station type you want. It's self-sustaining, and what race types of each and all that stuff. So you know how much it's going to cost. You know how many buildings it's going to be. This one I'm going to build is going to cost about 180 million and has like 59 stations. 59, I think. Anyways, so it's going to be big though. It's going to be huge. It's huge. And it's going to start with the solar power plant that's right up here. Because I built these storage units wrong where the docks are underneath, the ships can't fly between the storage and this because it has to. The AI is not very smart to fly through these narrow openings. So when you're building stuff, keep that in mind. I should have had these with the docks above it, or I should have built these above that solar power plant. Anyways, no matter what, I should have had the docking clamps facing the center of the action, or it's facing the other stations. Because you want to make the AI, you want to make it as easy as possible for the AI pathing. Basically, straight lines. It has to be a clear straight line, or there's going to possibly be issues. So, like right now with these docking clamps being underneath, and they can't get they keep hitting the stations and blowing themselves up. So, anyways, if I start this complex here, I can set that complex docking clamp, more out here. It won't really help with this too much, but at least for the ships to access this complex, they don't have to go over this thing. They just go up to this dock that's going to be out here. So anyways, that's my plan here for this. Anyways, I've got my acclimator here. I started with some of these buildings here, so I'm just going to start placing them now. When actually, I'll be probably right back. Now with the complex, I may say this again when I'm doing the complex calculator part, but basically, you can try to get the amount of stations so that whatever it's producing, getting the rate of production, try to equal it out with all the different things. You know what I mean? You can try to think of it that way. That makes sense to you. So it's like an even. You're trying to get the numbers equal, so that everything's that in the ratios that you need it's being produced that way. Does that make sense? So if you need 5,000 energy cells and you need 100 crystals and 50 computer parts, and let's say that the crystal plant produces 20 at a time, so it's going to take 5 cycles, and this one makes 50 at a time, so it's going to take 2 cycles. But this cycle only takes 2 minutes per cycle, and this one takes 10 minutes per cycle. They'll both be done in or say 4 minutes per cycle, so each one would be done in like 20 minutes or whatever. That's the idea, like having the numbers equal out. But anyways, you don't necessarily have to do that with the final product. Like within the complex, you want to have the right amount of food and stuff like that. That you're not the final product stuff that is only going to be used to produce the final product stuff. That stuff you want to have equal because you don't want to sell it, so you don't want to have extra of that. But the final products, you can have it like if you can have these things produced at different rates. because you're not going to be using them all the time. Once you get caught up, once your production gets caught up and your storage holds gets full, you're not going to need these to be produced all at the same rate, because some things would be full while other, and it allows things that are slower rates to be caught up. That makes sense. So you've got time on your side, because I remember when I first started trying to calculate this thing, I went way too far. I was really doing that. Like, I was looking at the HQ and saying, okay, well, roundabout, I need 10 times more energy cells than I do ore, and I need 10 times more ore than I need silicon. So I was trying to get the ratios all the same and all that stuff. But what it came down to is once things were caught up in production, the only thing that really it did was they all stopped producing at the same time, because all the storages of each one of those were done at the same time. You know what I mean? So you don't have to really think that deep, because it will equal out, unless you find that you're not producing something at that rate that you want to. Then you may want to go ahead and try to add on more of that station, that factory type. But starting off, my main concern is being able to produce everything that I need, just having something producing it. So I just have one of those final product factories and complexes or stations, just one of each final product that I need. And then as you saw the complex calculator, I worked backwards from there. You want to figure out what you want your final product to be first. But anyways, so that's the plan. Okay, so that's the plan. So let's go ahead and get this party started. One thing you always want to do is you want to save, because again, well, once you place a station, you can't undo it. Once it's placed. The only way to get rid of it is to take your fleet and attack it and destroy it. That's the only way to get rid of something. So you want to save as you go, because you don't want one stupid mistake to nullify 40 minutes of placing things perfectly. So anyways, let's see here. Let's do this. Okay. All right. So if I go here, I got my acclimator. All right. Where's my other acclimator? Is that OTOS? I'm going to want this guy to jump and fly to position. I want him in here because he's got some complex construction kits. Those are the tubes that connect each station. That acclimator's got some on there, so I want to use those. So while I'm waiting for this guy, I think the first connection, because it uses the complex dock, you have to place that too. I think I'll be able to go ahead and just place that. So let me see here. Command console, special, drop station. It doesn't really matter. I'm trying to think. I no, it doesn't really matter. I don't know, let's go with quantum 2 fab and see what that looks like. Now, when you place complexes, you need to have an advanced satellite in the sector, because only they have this function. When you hit K, you can actually see, I mean, you can look at the icons, but the icons don't really tell you the real life shape of and location of stuff. You know what I mean? So what I want to do though is I want to go towards the, yeah, I want to take the cursor. You move it by the numpad, 8, 2, up, down, 4, 6, left, right. Now 1 and 2 will rotate it like diagonal, like rotate them vertically or horizontally. Insert changes your axis, your viewing axis. This is top down. This is horizontal from the side. But you'll need all that stuff to really be able to put these buildings where you want them, so the tubing and connections aren't all off. So what I want to do is I want to zoom in, because I'm going to build from this power plant, and if you see, the docks are pointed this way. So what I want to do is, if I go up here and if I hit 5, what that does is whatever, see, I've selected the solar power plant here, whatever your building cursor is closest to. If you see here, the light gray is the actual complex I'm going to place. If whatever it's closest to, as far as a already standing station or ship or whatever, if you hit F5, it'll snap it to it. When and also when you're building these complexes, to really have ease and control, you want to build kind of like flat, like you want to build out horizontally. You can do vertically, but then that's when you're dealing with, I mean, you can do it, it just makes it a little bit more difficult, because when the stations first start here, they're flat. They're done horizontally. Oops. And the docking clamps are usually pointed down, so it's all uniform. It's just easier that way, unless you start, because when you start twisting them and all that stuff, you can get confused sometimes. But, or I do anyway. I'm just, my suggestion to make it easier anyway. But if I go here and I'm close to that solar power plant, I hit F5, I snap right to it. So it's right on top of it. Okay. And I want to do that because I want to move it forward a little bit, but I'm also going to need to move it up a little bit, and so that the docking clamp, this here, is pointed towards, see, it's above the solar power plant, but the docking clamp is pointed down and in front to where these docking clamps are. Okay, so it's important, so because the tubing, you don't place the tubing, the computer does it, and it does it kind of just the most efficient way, and that means straight lines. And if it's all catty cornered, you're going to have things, you're going to have these straight lines, like these diagonals, to try to keep it as simple and as clean as possible. You want to really pay attention to where those docking clamps are, because that's where the tubes connect. They connect on the docking clamps. So anyways, I think that's going to be good enough. What the idea is to build horizontally from here above, to have this here connected to here, the docking clamp for the complex out over the storage station. The complex is more in the center, and then because this is above, I want to just build from that and back above the solar power plant. Just have a flat complex. These stations right next to each other on the horizontal plane. So I think that's going to be a good spot. I saved it, so you always want to save it, but because once you place it, it's done. So I want to place it.
Command accepted.
It's the acclimator's got it, and now it placed it, and you see the docking clamp here, and it's on this side. So these are going to connect straight up to that from the solar power plant, and then the connections will be from that chip plant horizontal to the other buildings. Anyways, let me see here. It is number 1 has the complex kits, I believe. Drop station, yeah, complex. So here, it's basically the two that when you start a complex, the first 2 stations you connect are going to be the starting locations. The first station you select will be where the docking clamp connects to. Okay, the very first one. So I want it to be the quantum tube fab. Okay, it wasn't the chip plant; it was the quantum tube fab, because I want it to be a straight line out towards the center. So I'm going to do the quantum tube fab connected to the solar power plant.
Message.
And then now, this is the docking clamp, and I want to snap it to that. Okay, and I want it out over here, but also I need a rope. Nope, not that way. Not that way. That way. See, those are the docking clamps. I want to have those pointed out. Yeah. Yeah. That's what I want.
Command accepted.
So now it's going to connect all 3 of those. Let's see how it looks. The docking clamp with the docks are out. This is kind of like being looked at upside down a little bit, but so yeah, most of the ships will be coming from here, or they can just go out there also. That works. That works. That works. Okay, good. And it's a straight line to the quantum tube down there, and the plan is to now build horizontally from this station back. So, okay. So now, let's go with this one. I need to drop chip plant works. Let me highlight the hub, hit K for this view. Let me zoom in a little bit here. Let me go down. I want it to snap to the chip plant, or the quantum tube fab. Okay, so snapped to the quantum tube fab. Now, okay. Once I get this started, it's just because these are so close. Maybe I should have done that. Oh well. That works. Okay, so let me go down here, and the docks is underneath, and that's what I want. I'm going to have. You want to have the docks all on the same side, so the tubing goes along the same side. I'm going to twist this one though more equal there. So yeah,
command accepted.
I'm going to lay that there. And let me connect that real quick to see what it looks like. Let's see, your drop complex construction kit. I want the chip plant and the hub.
Command accepted.
Now, after you lay down the initial one with the docking clamp, the order you do them is not necessarily important, because every time you lay a new station, it looks at the whole overlay, and it can change where those connectors are, just based off adding one new one to it. So it's not that big of a deal after you place the initial. You connect the initial two and place the docking clamps. All right, so now let's go with. Let's see, I think this still has. Yeah, it's got two more. All right, so I want to go on my hub, hit K, scroll down, and this one here. No, not that one. Go up. Go back. Zoom in here. It's on the same horizontal plane. This is docking clamps on the bottom. You can see it, so that's good. I don't need to rotate it. It's on the even plane with the other stations. The only thing is, how close? How close? I'll put it right there. That works.
Command accepted.
Then it's got one more delay. Mosquito Missile Factory. So now I can go to the Rhymes Fact, and because it's not connected to the complex, I wanted to see how that initial connections work. If they messed up, I was just going to restart from the save. But now that I'm away from all that junk and I've got it started, now all I'm doing is just laying stations in a grid pattern, basically. I'm not going to connect these stations until the very end, until they're placed all placed now. So because now I can go ahead and just select, instead of everything being under the complex hub, all those 3 stations, this one's separate, so it lists as a separate item. So I can go ahead and snap to it. Like when I was trying to snap to those other ones, I can't, because the dock is the hub. You know, it doesn't matter where all the other stations are that are connected to it. The dock is the complex hub. So it's always going to snap to it. But now, let me hit this. Let me snap to it. Now it's going to be a lot easier. Now that I got this stuff going here. I'm going to go, let's see here, sideways. Where's the clamps? Docking clamps on the bottom. Alright, so I want to keep it on the bottom, but I think I'm going to rotate it. So it's kind of like that. And yeah, you don't want the stations too close, because obviously, basically, if they are, they're just going to blow up, because they'll just keep on gnawing at each other's shields and hull until they're gone. But you don't want them real far, because those connection tubes just run, you know. So it's kind of a good balance. Whatever you prefer, whatever fits. I try to just have everything kind of equal, no matter what the shape of the station. Just try to have an equal spacing between the stations, so they basically make rows and columns, like a grid system is what I do. So that one's good and level. I'm going to go ahead and place that. Alright, so now this one doesn't have any more stations. Okay. So I need to go. I'm going to go and buy some more stations here, and I'm probably going to cut this out. I'm just going to buy more stations I need, and I'll be back